What if the ancient stories we've heard all our lives weren't just tales of long ago, but threads in a tapestry revealing a God's pursuit of humanity through time? The Old Testament, 39 books, written over 1,000 years. It's not just ancient history, it's the story of a covenant, a kingdom, and a coming hope. Let's take a step back. The Old Testament opens not with a command, but with a creation. In the beginning, God speaks, and light answers. From the void, the universe bursts into existence. Earth, sky, sea, stars, life. Humanity is placed at the center, made in God's image. But paradise doesn't last. Through disobedience, Adam and Eve fall. And with them, the world spirals into brokenness. This is Genesis, the book of beginnings. But here's the surprise. Even in humanity's failure, God doesn't walk away. He initiates a rescue plan. He calls a man named Abraham. Through you, God says, all nations will be blessed. Abraham's descendants become the people of Israel, carriers of a promise much bigger than themselves. Fast forward, Exodus. Israel is enslaved in Egypt. Enter Moses. God hears the cries of his people, and through plagues, parted seas, and a mountain trembling with fire, he sets them free. But liberation is only the beginning. At Mount Sinai, God gives them a law, a way to live as a holy people in covenant with him. Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy deepen that story. Laws, rituals, a journey through the wilderness. The people stumble, they doubt, but God remains faithful. Then comes the conquest. In Joshua, Israel enters the promised land. Battles are fought, territories claimed. But as Judges follows, we see a cycle of failure, sin, oppression, repentance, deliverance. Again and again, humanity's heart problem remains. It's here that we meet Ruth, a foreign woman whose loyalty and love mark her as an unlikely ancestor of kings. Speaking of kings, 1 and 2 Samuel tell of Saul, Israel's first king, and David, the man after God's heart. David unites the tribes, establishes Jerusalem, and receives a promise. A future king from his line will reign forever. The kingdom reaches its peak with Solomon. Wisdom, wealth, a glorious temple. But cracks form. Division comes. The nation splits. Israel in the north, Judah in the south. From here, the story turns heavy. Kings rise and fall. Idolatry spreads. Prophets cry out, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Hosea. They warn, they plead, they speak of judgment and of hope. Then comes the exile. Foreign empires conquer. Jerusalem falls. The temple is destroyed. The people are carried off to Babylon. It feels like the end, but it's not. In books like Daniel and Ezekiel, we see resilience, faith under fire, visions of restoration. Eventually, the people return. Ezra rebuilds the altar. Nehemiah rebuilds the walls. But something is missing. The glory hasn't returned. The prophets speak of a new covenant, a suffering servant, a spirit poured out. And then, silence. For 400 years, no new prophets, no new books, just waiting. But the story isn't over, because threaded through every page, from Genesis to Malachi, is a pulse, a promise, that one day a Messiah will come, a king like David, a prophet like Moses, a sacrifice greater than any offered at the temple. The Old Testament is more than law and lineage. It's longing. It's the ache of humanity searching for redemption. And it's the whisper of a God who from the very beginning was writing a story of rescue. So as we close the final page of the Old Testament, we're not left with a conclusion, but a cliffhanger. The stage is set, the shadows are deep, and the light is about to break in.